So last week, Clay and I found ourselves with a classic Sunday conundrum. We had a whole afternoon, evening, and night, but had no idea what to do with it. But fortunately for us, our good buddy Jose recommended we play a game called Crow Country, which is this retro style horror game that he effusively praised. And aside from a short food break to eat some dinner, Clay and I finished Crow Country in one sitting. Short version, I loved it. Go play it. Go check it out for yourself. Long version, well, as I sometimes say in these videos, you already know how long the long version is. I don't know how long this video is going to be yet. But before we get into the long version, there's a couple things I want to say. Number one, full spoilers for the entire game this point onwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoilers are live for Crow Country. Like I said, if you don't want full spoilers and want to experience it for yourself, please, I implore you to go do that. Second, there are 3 aspects of the game that I really want to talk about because I found myself really thinking about them over the past few days. And what these 3 aspects are the nature of the gameplay, Elaine's motivations for returning to Crow Country, and her conversation with Mr. Crow. So, starting with the gameplay, I haven't played a whole lot of survival horror games, but my understanding is that Crow Country is pretty standard fare. There's a lot of resource management because ammunition and healing are finite. Although my understanding, looking a bit more into it, is that technically there is unlimited ammo in Crow Country. Because I think it's supposed to be in like the trunk of your car, there will always be a little bit of handgun ammo, so the game is never completely unwinnable, which is nice. And the game is also a giant puzzle box. There are several key items required to solve puzzles that... Oh, sorry. Brain's off for a second. But there's a lot of key items you need to solve puzzles, but you can't always get them without doing something else first. Like, you're not going to be able to get the gold key unless you have the silver key first. You're not going to be able to get the silver key unless you do the stuff with the bronze key first, etc., etc. And because of that, Crow Country plays out like it's one big escape room. And I really enjoyed that. I really liked the puzzle solving, and whenever we would get something like the silver key, I remember being super giddy, because I'm like, oh, that's right. I remember, like, we tried to get into the gift shop, but we couldn't because of the key. And then we were trying to get to this one guy's office, but we couldn't because we didn't have this key. And I think there was something else we couldn't do because we didn't have the key. Oh man, we got the data disc. Now we can go back into the train room. We get the flamethrower. Which I think when I actually said that to Clay, it's like, we can go get Spaceballs, the flamethrower. But just that excitement of, oh, I know exactly what I can do with this. I know exactly where this goes. I am so excited to keep solving the puzzle and to keep the momentum going. And what it really got me thinking, though, is why was I having so much fun playing Crow Country when I don't like playing Metroidvanias? And I don't know how often I've talked about it on the channel, but I know it's something I talk about with my friends all the time, that I don't like Metroidvanias. I don't like backtracking. One of the things I really like about platformers is there's linear progression. One of the things I like about a lot of JRPGs is linear progression. I don't know if you see this as much anymore, but I feel like, especially in like the mid 2010s or so, linear seemed like it was always a dirty word. Like, you'd see it in game reviews or video essays, like, oh man, this game, like, it's just too linear, and that's something I really don't like about it. I have to take points off, but for me, that's almost always something in a game's favor. Not to say I don't like engaging in sequence breaking. That can be really fun. Not to say I don't like exploration and being able to check out more of a map and go off the beaten path a bit. That's fun. But I like that feeling of linear progression, both in terms of narrative development and also in terms of like character skill. It's why Metroidvanias kind of bother me. And it's really what I was saying a bit about Crow Country is I like keeping that momentum going. What frustrates the hell out of me is being like, oh man, I can't wait to keep exploring. Oh, there's an ability I don't have. Okay, well, let me go explore for, like, let me see if I can go find it. And then it's... Sorry, I'm just, like, remembering playing Hollow Knight. And there was just this point where I had to look up what to do and realize, so to do the thing I want to do, I have to go into this other corner of the map that I've never been to before, but I can't do that until I do this other thing completely unrelated, and that's on the other side of the map. I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'll go do that. And to me, that's really, like, because I did have to think about it for a while. I was like, why do I like the puzzle box aspect of this game when I don't like the puzzle box aspects of other games? It's the scale. It's the scope. Crow Country, I can get from one area of the map to almost any other area in the map in about 30 seconds. Also, the running shoes helped with that. We got all the secrets in the game, and boy, the running shoes were super clutch. But even without that, I never felt that slow. It takes a minute or two at max without the running shoes to get from point A to like almost any other point B. But in a game like Hollow Knight, it feels like it takes a really long time. Like almost any area of Hollow Knight feels like it's the size of the map of Crow Country. And it's that scale that makes the backtracking and it makes the looping around and the exploration, at least to me, feel like a chore rather than, okay, we're moving from one thing to the next, let's go, which is what makes it really fun for me. Okay, so moving on to point number 2. Sorry, just looking at my notes and trying to get my notes in order. I have like 5 pages of notes. So, like I had said earlier, the second thing I wanted to talk about was Elaine's motivation. So for those who are unaware or you're a bit fuzzy on the details, the protagonist of Crow Country is one Mara Forrest, who is a special agent investigating the disappearance of Edward Crow, who is this super wealthy multimillionaire guy who owns the Crow Country theme park. In reality, she's a 17-year-old girl named Elaine Marshall who suffered an injury at the park 2 years ago and has been slowly dying of this incurable infection. And there's a good amount of hints throughout the game as to her identity. Like, it's something that way before the reveal happened, Clay and I were like, okay, like, this is what's going on, right? For example, Sorry, brain stopped for a second. But there's a lot of times when she's interacting with some of the different people in the park where they bring up how young she is and how young she looks. And I was kind of thinking, it's like, well, if she is super young, Elaine was 15, it was only 2 years. So yeah, like she would look and act like a kid. Just in some of her dialogue. It has this very teenage kind of snark to it. The part that really stuck out to me is, I think in one of the safe rooms, you can find adult magazines, and when she looks, she's like, barf, who would read this? Like, yeah, that doesn't sound like an adult. There's the fact that the opening narration of the game has Mara being like, my name is Mara Forrest. If anyone asks, that's my name. Like, trying to really harp on that this is my identity when it's very clearly not. And when you go into the room with the man in the cage, the player does not have to figure out how to solve that room. She just knows and just says, this is what to do, because 2 years ago, she had already done it. And that is something I appreciated. Like, there is a really healthy amount of foreshadowing for this reveal. And characters throughout the game will question, why are you here? What is this special agent or 17-year-old, however it is that they see her? It's like, but what are you doing coming back to this dilapidated place? Especially entering with a gun. And although that Elaine will always say, like, I'm here to investigate this disappearance, I'm here to find Mr. Crow, I'm here to talk to Mr. Crow, most people seem to think that talk involves introducing him to her little friend. But come the end of the game, when she is finally face-to-face with Mr. Crow, she doesn't immediately shoot him. She doesn't want to shoot him. He even says, like, I assume you're here to kill me. And she says no. She's just there to talk. She's there to tell him, I'm going to die because of what happened at your park, because of the injury that I suffered, because you aren't helping to pay my medical bills. And she wants this man to look her in the eye and take accountability for what he's done, or for him to have to look her in the eye and refuse to take accountability and show just how heartless and just how callous he really is. And what got me thinking about it the past few days was just, was this her genuine plan all along? Or did she go in there to kill him and changed her mind along the way? And if so, what was it that changed her mind? Was it talking to Natalie and actually being able to meet the man's daughter? Especially that last conversation before confronting Crow, where she's begging Elaine, like, look, I understand that he's not a great guy and he's, has a lot of problems, but please don't kill my father. Was it seeing Harrison die just a few minutes before, and it kind of like put the realization of what she was about to do, like, holy shit, like, I don't know if I can go through with this? Or maybe it was actually seeing Crow and seeing how, like, far worse his condition is. And maybe it's now I don't want to kill you because I'm putting you out of your misery, or I wasn't expecting to feel pity for you. Like, I wanted to look you in the eye. I wanted you to have to see me as I am and what you did to me. I wasn't expecting you to be worse. Personally, I don't think she ever planned on killing him. I think her bringing the gun was purely for self-defense, because the last time she was here, she encountered a guest. She didn't want that to happen again. But I don't think she ever wanted to kill him. I am a sucker for a good revenge story, but there's something beautiful and powerful to me about a character going through everything that Elaine went through in that game, not for revenge, but just for closure. As an attorney, I've spoken to a lot of clients who just wanted accountability, who just wanted to have someone have to acknowledge what they did was wrong, who just wanted to have someone say, I'm sorry, or just wanted their day in court. So for me, it is entirely believable that Elaine would say, like, yeah, she did just want accountability. She did just want an apology. It's not necessarily in court, but she wanted to have that moment with Crow. And yeah, like I said, I think seeing everything that she went through, like, she escaped from the hospital, she scrapped together an ID card, she returned to the source of her horror and braved these several encounters with the guests with her trauma, just for that conversation, just for that closure. And I think that's really cool. And the final aspect of the game I wanted to talk about, like I said, is that conversation with Crow. Basically just the entire ending once you hit the pool. So throughout the game, you've been piecing together that the Crow Country theme park was, while it was an actual business, it was also a front for this mining operation that was literally happening right under the park. Because sorry, I just looked at the way I phrased it in my notes. Was a front for a mining expedition where Crow found gold in them hills. But what you learn at the end of the game, because this is where the game gets weird and wild, is that the gold was discovered in these giant copper tubes that they call the roots. And that these roots actually acted as calibration antenna for this glowing green pool that was a time machine. Or at least like a portal. I don't know if machine's quite the right word. And Crow would harvest the roots by, like, actually slicing into the copper and then, like, taking the gold out. And doing this messed up the antenna and the calibration, which meant that people traveling through the pool wouldn't come out quite right. And that's what the guests are. These are time travelers that are carrying this bacteria with them from the future. So that's what the infection is, and that's why the doctors in present day aren't able to identify it. It's something from the future. But Crow's harvesting of the gold is what caused them to become less and less human as time went on. And to me, the most poignant line in the game isn't necessarily from the note where you actually learn, like, okay, 2106, the world is uninhabitable. Which, by the way, one thing I really did enjoy about the game is the first time you see 2106, you're like, okay, this is going to be a code. Where can we put it in? Where can we find it? Why do, like, none of the keypads have a 0? What is this? And I was like, is this a year? Especially when you do I don't remember the guy's name, but when you're doing that one puzzle with, like, the Hindenburg and the Titanic and such, I'm like, these are all years. Is 2106 a year? What happens in 2106? Oh, you never truly know. And I kind of like that. But like I said, the most poignant line in the game to me is when Crow is explaining that the first guest was able to communicate, and really only the first guest was able to communicate, and he tells Elaine, I wrote it down word for word on a little piece of paper. Then I went back to harvesting the roots. And what I love about it is this moment presents Crow as this very Onceler-like businessman who's just trying to line his pockets, not really caring about what it's going to do to other people, what it's going to do to the future. As long as I can get mine, I'm going to get as much as I can. And when you do read the note, and now you have the full context of everything, it says that it says, like, because it's all in, like, very broken words, because the guests could barely communicate, thanks Crow, is that the last chance to save the Earth is in 1988. And the game takes place in 1990. So, unless something happened in the past couple years, world's fucked. Which, I guess I'll go and talk about that, which will kind of segue into this last part of this section, is I think maybe the world did get saved. Because I say it's uninhabitable, but don't explicitly say why. But with everyone having this bacteria that can't be cured, that seems like it's probably what it is. It seems like it's probably some kind of disease or infection. But in these past 2 years, Crow has been working on a cure and was successful in making a cure, which does mean this bacteria can be beaten. Maybe it now has and will be forever eradicated. It was some kind of, like, time loop situation. Or maybe it's not that, but at the very least, the knowledge is still around, even though Crow himself is dead by the end of the game. I don't know if maybe his notes survived. There are a lot of notes throughout the game, but it is entirely possible that he was able to save the world. He was able to make up for his mistake. Or maybe he didn't. But what I find really interesting is that, as callous as it is for Crow to, listen to this person, communicate, tell him everything, and to just keep doing what he's doing, making every person who comes through that pool worse, you also see how much he has changed in these past 2 years. You see that he has taken accountability, just not in the way Elaine expected, by developing the cure. He's accepted his death. He tells her when she puts 2 and 2 together, it's like, okay, you made 5 cures. There's only 6, or excuse me, like, there's 5 cures, but 6 infected people. How are we supposed to choose? You're like, oh, you don't have to choose. I'm not going to be taking it. I deserve what's about to happen to me. And I feel like the least I can do now is to go through that pool. And I think part of it is, if after all this time, I just want to see what's on the other side. And I think part of it is also, maybe, just maybe, I can see it and I can do something to try to prevent it, and I can save us. Sorry, again, just looking at my notes. I can't help but wonder how much of Crow's altruism, though, is... how much of it is legitimate and how much of it is more desperation. We see that his wife is dead. He's very estranged from his daughter. The mining operation and all the smoke and mirrors that they've been doing, that's starting to come undone, and the government is starting to see the wizard behind the curtain. And he's also infected and dying. Also, there's a lawyer on his ass trying to make sure that he's paying for this girl's medical bills. His entire life is unraveling. So is this everything is falling apart. Let's try to make the most of what I have, the time I have, and this is well-intentioned. How much of it is, even without all of that going on, he still would have done this because he still realized I need to take accountability for what I've done. And how much of it is, it's less of, let me at least make sure the time I have left is well spent and that the resources I still have are well spent. And how much is, can I find redemption in my final hour? Is it possible for me to save my soul? I'm gonna do what I can and hope that maybe it's enough to overwrite all the wrongs I've done. And another thing, I know I feel like I keep saying throughout this is something I find really interesting, but I do, is when Crow comes back from the portal, he's heavily mutated, and the one thing he requested of Elaine is, if I come back and I'm super fucked up, please kill me. I do want you to mercy kill me. And when he comes back and you have a boss fight, after the fight, he's able to talk in these kind of broken words, and he's trying to tell Elaine, what he's Elaine, it's... And she tells him, shut up. I don't want to hear it. She makes the same mistake that he did. Here is a guest from the future trying to communicate, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going on. And someone with the power to listen and maybe do something about it says, I don't care what you have to say. And I kind of like that full circle aspect. Although obviously with Elaine, it's not because, well, I'm super greedy and I'm going to go get mine. I think for me, it's a combination of the weight of the moment just really hitting her, and she's I don't want to hear you try to talk anymore. This is too much. Part of it might be she's just scared to hear what he has to say, and she doesn't want to know if the world can be saved or not. And part of it might be, I still hate you, Crow. I don't want to give you this moment. I don't want, you've already done a lot to kind of redeem yourself. I don't want to give you any more credit than I have to. I will also say, I didn't see that scene in my playthrough, because what happened was, I beat the boss, and as kind of a, celebratory, yeah, I just, tossed a grenade as soon as the fight was over. And because the way that scene works is, once you do damage to him, it cuts to the ending. The grenade went off, before he started talking, and so it just cut immediately to the end. And Jose had to tell us, okay, no, there was a whole little bit that you missed, and so I watched it. And it's okay, I genuinely missed something good, but the way it happened was really funny. But overall, when it comes to that last bit, my personal interpretation is that it's not because Elaine is that petty to try to deny Crow his final redemption. For me, it is she's just scared. And who could really blame her? I mean, she's still just a kid, but she's scared to know the truth, that this is what's going to happen to the earth and it's unstoppable. Or like, maybe you can, but you're probably not going to. And she chooses to turn a blind eye. And I think the game ends with this short little narration, and it's something that you hear at every save point, or excuse me, every save room, but every time you save. And I think it really sums up the game's tone, especially the tone of the finale. And I could think of no better way to end the video. Staring into the flames, I feel something. It's a curious mixture of hope and dread. Maybe everything will be okay. And maybe it won't.